what's up, everybody? Over the weekend, the wife and I were able to finally go see Cruella in theaters, and I gotta tell you, it did not disappoint. We're gonna talk about that today on the Bailey Broadcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're new here, I am Tommy B, and this is the Bailey Broadcast, where we talk about everything movies, television, entertainment, all right? So, like I said in the intro, my wife and I finally got to go see Disney's Cruella in theaters, and I gotta be honest, I really enjoyed this film. It's probably my favorite live adaptation of any Disney property to date, which says a lot because I really did enjoy Aladdin. I thought Lion King was pretty good for the most part. I think my heart still goes out to the original animated version. I just love that film. But Disney's Cruella was just pure fun from beginning to end. For those who haven't seen the film, there are going to be some spoilers today, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it on Disney Plus or in the theaters. Highly recommend the theaters because the soundtrack to this film is so good, especially if you like classic rock. So where we're going to start off today are the performances by our two main actors, Emma Stone and Emma Thompson. Of course, Emma Stone is Cruella in the film, and she just does a phenomenal job. Really knocks it out of the park. I love seeing any origin story of any character. I think it really kind of gives us that backstory that we need to get us hooked into, these characters and why they are the way that they are. And this was a clear indication of, experiences developing your, personality and who you are. I think had, we seen a different, beginning to the story, Cruella obviously would have never been, created, right? And so we see that she has this mother who really does love and care for her, who is, fearful for her because Estella has this cruel side to her. She's very honest, especially about, the things that she's passionate about, which is fashion. And that's, how, her mom kind of nicknames her Cruella. And it was a very cute moment. And, as the beginning, of the film kind of rolls on, we see that, Cruella doesn't have a very good school life, always getting into fights, and they have to move, and as her mom says, we can't be a famous fashion designer in a small city, right? So they move to London. And this is kind of where, things obviously get really started for our main character. And we see that they have to go to Hellman Hall, which is where this Emma Thompson character, the Baroness, comes into play. And we don't really know much about her yet, or, what's happening, but this is where Cruella's love for fashion really, comes full throttle, and really is the inspiration for her doing what she wants to do. And of course, like any child, she doesn't listen to her mom. She gets out of the car with her dog, and they end up having to run away from 3 Dalmatians because they're not supposed to be there, obviously. And it comes to this scene on the cliff where we get the backside of the Baroness talking to Cruella's mom, which we'll talk about in a little while. And we think in the beginning that it was Cruella's fault that the dogs ended up attacking her mother and pushing her over the ledge to her death. But that also isn't true, which we'll talk about as well. But this is the, kind of tidal wave that begins for, Cruella's life and her destiny. And she goes on the run and runs into our, 2 young thieving, characters, Jasper and Horace. And they become, their own little family. And throughout the next 10 years, they get very good at stealing from people in all different kinds of, environments and places. And as Horace says, there's always an angle, right? And I really enjoyed their, dynamic. Horace and Jasper really brought a charm to their roles and to their, relationship with Cruella that kind of, in a way kept her grounded and not going too mad until it was, too late. But just their overall relationship and the dogs and how they all work together was very cute and charming. And I really enjoyed any time, those three work together, which, obviously, we know they have a long history together and they work together, for a long, long time. And it was just a very cool, origin story for all three of them. And we get to that point where Jasper ends up getting Cruella a job, and this is where she kind of gets noticed. Obviously, she puts in long hours, basically as a cleaning lady at this, this fashion store that's owned by the Baroness. And just when, things couldn't get any worse for our main character, she decides to have a little fun, have a little too much to drink, and redesign or redress the mannequin in the front window, which gets her noticed by the Baroness. And I just loved, how they used, the 1970s as their main, time era for this character, where fashion was such a huge thing, such a era where, times were changing. Obviously, the 60s and the 70s were so much different from the 40s and 50s in fashion and just overall just life, right? And so for them to use the 70s, I thought was brilliant. And we really get to see her, Cruella's, genius shine through this era, which I thought was brilliant. And so she gets recognized by the Baroness. She ends up working, basically right alongside the Baroness, giving her ideas, inspiring the Baroness, and the Baroness using, everything that Cruella designs as her own ideas, which really kind of shows, a great kind of, obviously Cruella admires the Baroness from the very beginning. She sees her as a goddess, right? This is her inspiration. She wants to become her one day. And that seems to be, the path that we're on up until the point where we see the family heirloom necklace that Cruella loses as a child when she ran away. And she comes to find out or realize that the Baroness is the one who killed her mother. And it's from that point on where she stops being Estella and decides to become Cruella. And it was just a really huge turning point, obviously, for the character. Working for the person who killed your mother was not going to go over easily. And so she decides, I hate this woman. I'm going to take everything that she has from her. And they, try to come up with their first heist to steal the necklace, which was where we first get introduced to the real Cruella de Vil, hair and all. And it was a true coming out party. That ends up with Horace landing on a cake, which was a very well choreographed scene. But and the dogs as well, Blinky, or I forget the dog's name with the patch, but how they dressed him up as a rat, was very funny. But it was a great, entry point for Cruella to all of a sudden realize, okay, this is what I need to do to get back at her, right? And then from every moment after that, anytime there was a huge fashion event or a show that was going on, that the Baroness was either invited to or hosting, Cruella was doing her, one up, and was really outperforming and outshining the Baroness, which was starting to drive the Baroness mad. And it was just a cool transition, right? Because in the beginning we see, this admiration for the Baroness by Cruella, and then all of a sudden turn into hatred. And I think, there was a point where in the movie they're out to celebrate or whatever, and you could see that the Baroness obviously hated Cruella, but started to admire her, drive and just overall genius as well. So how that kind of, changed was really well done. And I just thought anytime those two together, Emma Thompson, again, she did such a great job at, really showcasing her cold-hearted, I got where I am by not caring about anybody else kind of attitude. And I think that's kind of what Cruella really took, from their conversations and interactions, was she needed to be the same way, which, in parts of the, growth process for Cruella, she started to do that and really not treating Jasper and Horace as family anymore, but as, servants. And that obviously, doesn't stick for too long. She realizes that, those two really are her family and she can't treat them like that. But again, the overall performances from Emma Thompson and Emma Stone were just, they stole the whole movie, really. I mean, anytime they were, in the same scene together, the tension was high, and you really didn't know who was going to come out on top. There was always kind of that, underlying, thought, does the Baroness really know who Cruella is? Because there was obviously, when she wasn't Cruella, she was portraying Estella and being her assistant, helping her plan out every, move that she was going to make next, whether it was the dresses all going into the safe, and the dress that looked like it was covered in beads was actually, cocoons of moss, that ended up destroying all the other dresses, which was brilliant. I just thought they obviously were just casted perfectly for these roles, and it was a really great ride from beginning to end. I really did, again, like all the characters. I thought that the two actors playing Jasper and Horace were once again charming and, filled their roles perfectly. Mark Strong, who didn't have a huge, supporting role, but played an intricate role nonetheless by being that kind of double agent working for the Baroness, but knowing, I think, the whole time who Cruella was, and really wanting to help her and protect her, was integral, to the story. And it was really because of him we find out that Cruella and the Baroness are mother and daughter, and that's why they're so alike. And it was, kind of a great twist that I didn't really see coming, honestly. Like, it was kind of obvious once it was made known, but I really didn't see that coming, and it was a nice surprise and made all the sense in the world. And it was from that moment on, Cruella really was like, okay, I gotta take this woman down. She was gonna just get rid of me. She wanted me killed. And it was just a very critical moment, and she decides, okay, I'm gonna take everything once again from the Baroness, because I'm just done. And we get that kind of great full circle moment where at the end of the film, they're back on that cliffside, they're confronting one another. Cruella's like, you're my mother, and you try to get rid of me, and the Baroness is like, of course, this all makes sense. And clearly you can't trust the Baroness. She's like, can I come in for a hug? I'd be like, hell no, bitch, I don't fucking trust you. And I don't think Cruella did either, but she played it out very well. And the way she just set up the Baroness by having all of these guests dressed as Cruella, and then coming out to the patio to see this actual, event of murder happen right in front of them, and then putting the Baroness in jail, was truly remarkable, especially considering how when you think, okay, she's not going to die, right? Cruella's not going to die, even though, in the beginning when it's narrated by Cruella, she's like, of course, this is how I am dead or whatever. We just know that it was really Estella who died, and Cruella is now born. And right before, that happened, obviously one of the things that we saw that was given to her by John was her birth certificate. And she, transferred all of the, heirs to the throne, or to the, the mansion, and everything that the Baroness owned that was supposed to be to Estella, she was the rightful heir, was transferred over to Cruella. So now that Estella's dead, Cruella's alive, the Baroness is in jail, Cruella gets everything. And it was a really cool, satisfying, justification, revenge plot by Cruella de Vil. I thought it was just a very well-written story. And for it to, again, take place in the 70s, the production design, the costume design, it really was beautiful. And I really just enjoyed the whole film, especially if you're a fan of classic rock like I am. The music for each scene was perfectly, chosen. My favorite actual scene is the runway fashion show in the middle of the street, where her friend Artie, I'm pretty sure, was singing that song originally, performed by John McCrae, I believe. I Want to Be Your Dog. Like, what a perfect song choice for that scene, and just, the overall, movie. Obviously, we know her love, I guess, slash hatred for Dalmatians, which I thought was a curious, ending. I don't know. I just, from what I remember in the original animated movie, she wanted the furs of Dalmatians to make coats and clothes and whatnot. In this, iteration, it seems like they're not going that route. They want her to be, obviously, she didn't kill the Dalmatians when she had that coat on. She made it out of something else. And obviously, the Dalmatians are now loyal to her. And, in the end, we see a setup for an obvious sequel. She gives 2 Dalmatian puppies, one to her friend Anita and one to the lawyer guy, who's singing the original Cruella de Vil song. And obviously, we're going to get 101 Dalmatians kind of, sequel, I think. It's pretty obvious there. But all in all, I really loved this film. My wife and I left there just kind of grinning ear to ear, saying it'd probably be one that we would see again in theaters. And I didn't feel like that for some of the other live adaptations. Aladdin was great. I did enjoy it. But I just thought this one showed a whole lot more, I don't want to say heart, but just, I don't know. There was just something about it. It was just very entertaining. And the story, like I always say, came full circle, made sense. There really wasn't anything, that I thought didn't belong in the film. I thought, it all flowed very well together. The CGI with the dogs, I thought looked pretty good for most of the movie. There was a couple scenes where you could kind of tell, okay, that's obviously CGI'd. But, it fit, nothing seemed like it didn't belong. So I got to give them credit. When you have $175 million, budget to work with, your film and your CGI should look that good. So please leave your comments down below, and hit that like and subscribe button as well. And let's get into what was lost in imagination. So obviously, with a movie like Cruella, it being a little darker of, a movie by Disney, obviously it's a origin story of one of our most iconic villains, right? I think there's so many positive messages you can take out of this, but the one that really kind of stuck to my mind was not letting your past hold you back, not letting any excuse hold you back. There's always a way to get what you want. And hopefully you do it in the right way. No backstabbing, unless you don't like that person. But no, I think, just continually, being driven by what inspires you and what your goals are and passions are, is a great message to be taken. And hopefully, we always try to live that way. Life is so short, and, if you don't have a goal or something that drives you, then what are you trying to succeed in, or what are you trying to accomplish? So again, that was our message that was lost in imagination for this week, and for the Cruella Disney film, now in theaters and on Disney Plus. And again, thank you for stopping by, and we will see you next time on the Bailey Broadcast. Take care, guys.